Well, perhaps not surprisingly, there has been unease among some Muslim communities after the Boston bombings last week. Following the capture of 2 suspects in the bombings, Muslim leaders in North America are adding their voices to condemn terrorism. Today in Montreal and Toronto, 2 Muslim men appeared in court. They're charged in an alleged Al-Qaeda-supported plot to attack a Via Rail passenger train here in Canada. Well, to hear more about how Muslim Canadians are reacting, we're joined by Aasim Rashid. He's a Muslim scholar, and he is the BC Muslim Association's Director of Religion, and he's with us in studio. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Very nice to see you again.
Thanks.
As you watch the events unfold after the Boston bombing, when authorities were out there looking for suspects, zeroing in on suspects, what was going through your mind then?
I think a lot of us had our fingers crossed, hoping that it wouldn't be someone from the Muslim community. And we know what the implications of that are. And as the suspects were apprehended, and things became clearer, so that changed into a kind of there was a great deal of sorrow to hear that it was someone from that community, added to the sorrow of the event itself. For people like myself, a lot of frustration, because it goes against everything that we uphold and the message that we convey to Muslims and non-Muslims. And these kinds of things make it all the more difficult.
You say you knew what the implications would be for the Muslim community. What are the implications for the community in general?
Well, depending on what level you're looking at, I think it affects us at all levels. Our children that are going to school are going to be looked at differently. Those of us that are out there in the workforce, they are looked at differently. And, our life with our neighbors, our social lives, our lives with our friends, and travel and new laws and bills that are brought in to counter these types of things, it makes life much more difficult.
As details emerge, though, of course, we had the situation in Boston, and then we don't have a lot of information about the 2 suspects arrested in the alleged plot to attack a Via Rail train, except that they were somehow linked to Al-Qaeda or supported by Al-Qaeda. How has that incident been greeted by the Muslim community?
I think we're going to find out a lot more as the details of the investigation are, they're disclosed. What we can say right now is, I think the initial reaction has been complete shock and surprise. And I think what catches people the most is the senselessness of it, the fact that there is nothing to gain for anybody in these things. And that really becomes it becomes problematic.
Does it make a difference that now we have something that has allegedly occurred in Canada, where you could say, okay, that's the United States, that's on the other side of the border, that's them, not us. Now we have an incident in taking place in Canada where people might be looking at Muslims closer to home in a different way.
Well, we know that this is not the first of such things to occur here in Canada.
Right.
So the Canadian authorities and the law enforcement agencies are definitely being very vigilant, and they're making sure they have their bases covered. And I think they're doing a good job of that. Where these types of ideologies or these lines of thinking are coming, I think that's what needs to be addressed. And I think with the internet and with those resources that these people are probably getting their information or thoughts from, it's so diffused. It could happen anywhere at any time. And that is one of the things that we address with our communities, that we want parents to keep their children close to them, and we want them to keep their children or family members very close to the mainstream Muslim community. Because that's where they will get the positive message. That's where they will get the instructions to live, a practical Muslim life that encompasses all aspects of life. When you're cut off from that and you're just kind of on your own, doing your own research or whatever these people are doing, then you're exposed to all kinds of elements, and that's really what we're trying to address right now with the community.
And where do these lines of thought come from?
I was speaking to the congregation on Friday, and my thoughts at this point are that there may be individuals in communities that keep a very low profile, and they they may be taking certain individuals aside and spoon feeding them some kind of radical theory or radical plans, and convincing people who don't have the sense to know otherwise. The other, but I think that is very rare, and especially in the last few years, it's very difficult to find people like that in Muslim communities. I think most of it is coming from online lectures or websites or resources, whatever is out there. I think that's mainly where we're getting this from.
Do you feel you're being watched? Do you feel you're being unfairly targeted?
Not at this point, no. Not in Canada. I think the authorities here are very sensible. They do their homework. They don't bother people unnecessarily. They have made it very clear that their approach is a preventative one. It's a proactive one, and Muslims are definitely on board with all of that. And it's nice to know that the Muslims are, doing their best to facilitate that. And they're not just cooperating with the authorities, but they're out there, with their eyes and ears open, looking for stuff, as was reported in this incident this week.
Do you ever feel weary about having to defend your community every time there's some terror-related incident occurs?
I do, but I can't help but wonder what's next, and hope and pray that what's next is better than what has passed. But that's where it's time for people like me and other, especially young community leaders, to sort of step up to the plate, and we have a serious role to play.
And what do you do about that? I mean, as a leader, what are you telling others in the Muslim community right now? My message is very clear. It's that you live here peacefully in a law-abiding fashion, or you go away. You don't belong here. When you come to Canada or any country, you are basically entering into a contract with that country. Whether you're coming here on a visa or a work permit or permanent residence, or you acquire citizenship, there is a certain agreement that you are coming into with the people of the country and with the government of that country. If you cannot uphold it and honor that, then you definitely don't belong here. Awesome. It's great to talk with you. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Aasim Rashid is a Muslim scholar. He is also the BC Muslim Association's Director of Religion.